This is the brand new Amazfit Balance 2, and this watch's spec sheet is pretty wild. It's got a responsive user interface, a speaker and microphone, 3 weeks of battery life, multi-band GNSS, a big bright AMOLED touch-enabled display with a sapphire lens, maps and navigation, music storage, and a premium feeling build. Now, if all of that sounds familiar, it's because the spec sheet here looks a lot like this watch. This is the $750 Garmin Forerunner 970. And these two watches have a lot in common, except for one major thing: the price. The new Amazfit Balance 2 comes in at just $250. I've been wearing the Balance 2 for a couple of weeks now, and in this video, I want to go through all of the new features and specs and what I learned about this thing over the past couple of weeks. Along the way, we'll also take a look at some health and wellness data, things like GPS and heart rate accuracy, and share my opinion on who I think this thing's for and if it's worth investing in. When it comes to colors available at launch, the watch case itself only comes in one color. It is this sort of gunmetal gray looking aluminum, and I think it looks pretty cool. Now, around the bezel of the display, if you look closely, might be hard to see on camera, there's actually like a subtle blue hint to that bezel. It's not something that really stands out, but I do think the watch overall looks pretty premium. Now, even though there's only one color for the watch itself, there are two different band options. There's this band here, which they're calling Lava. It's this sort of deep orange color, and I think it looks pretty cool. And then they do have a standard black band as well. Something unique about the Amazfit Balance 2 is that it fits into Amazfit's ecosystem of wearable devices. This means you can pair something like the Amazfit Helio Ring or the brand new Amazfit Helio strap to the same app on your phone and collect all of your health and wellness data from various sources in one location on your phone in one app, which is really cool. And I think Amazfit currently is the only brand offering so many options for doing this. This means if you don't like wearing a watch to bed, you could wear the smart ring. If you don't like wearing the smart ring to bed, you could wear the smart strap and collect all of that data in one place. By the way, the Helio strap here is brand new, and I have a whole separate video about that. If you want to check that out, I'll link that on the screen now. Let's take a closer look at the hardware on the new Balance 2. So as you can see here, this watch comes in at a 47mm diameter form factor, and it's about 12.3mm thick. And if I compare it to something like the Garmin Fenix 8 here, which is the 47mm form factor, you can see they're nearly the same size. If I flip them on their side, the Fenix 8 is a little bit thicker, but generally speaking, they look pretty similar. And the same goes for something like the Garmin Forerunner 970 here, which just came out a couple of weeks ago. These two watches look nearly identical, pretty much the same thickness, pretty much the same diameter, and have a similar look. And for one more point of comparison, we have the ever so popular Apple Watch Ultra 2 here, and as you can see, they're kind of similar in size as well. And the Amazfit Balance 2 is pretty darn light. Comes in at 42 grams without the band and 60 grams with the included silicone band. When it comes to build quality on this watch, all the sides here are a continuous frame that are actually made out of aluminum, along with the buttons themselves. And the back of the case is made out of plastic. And the Amazfit Balance 2 is water resistant to 10 atmospheres, which is actually double the water resistance of the original Balance 1. Flipping the watch on its side here, this watch does feature two buttons. There's a lower button here that'll dive you directly into the activity menu, and then a top button that brings you into the app menu as well. This top button is also a digital crown that you can roll with your finger to scroll through the user interface. Flipping the watch over, you can see that this watch does feature the new PPG 6.0 Amazfit heart rate sensor. This does pick up SpO2 or blood oxygen saturation on top of your heart rate, and it will detect skin temperature as well. Now, below that heart rate sensor, you'll notice two little metal contacts. That's for the proprietary Amazfit magnetic charger here. That just snaps on the back. You plug a USB Type-C cable in the side here, which is not included, and that's how you charge the watch. Now, this charger is actually the same charger used on various Amazfit products. You can even charge the new Amazfit Helio strap with the same charger as well. Internally, the Balance 2 does feature a barometric altimeter, a compass, an accelerometer, and a thermometer inside. Flipping the watch back over, let's talk about the display, because this is a really nice display. This is a 1.5-inch AMOLED touch-enabled display with super high resolution. Not only that, it gets up to 2000 nits of brightness, which is incredibly bright and bright enough even for direct sunlight. If you're out on a run or a bike ride and you glance at your watch, you're able to see the data on this with no issues. The really nice thing about the Amazfit Balance 2 is that unlike the original Balance, this watch features a sapphire display. That sapphire display means it's using a sapphire crystal over the top here, which is incredibly scratch resistant, in the same kind of material you'd find on something like the super expensive Garmin Fenix 8 here. It's really good to see Amazfit using sapphire on a lot of their watches now, and a really welcome change on the Balance too. One thing I will note about the material that they're using for their display is that it does accumulate smudges a little bit, so you can see my fingerprints there. If you do have like sweaty hands or something and you use the touchscreen, you'll leave a little mark there and you'll have to sort of wipe it off with your t-shirt. It's not a huge deal, but something I thought was worth mentioning. Hey there, quick interruption. If you're finding this video fun or helpful in any way, I'd appreciate it if you drop down and give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more videos from me in the future. Back to the video. Now let's take a closer look at the user interface. I'm gonna do this kind of quickly because it's very similar to other Amazfit watches. The watch face is fully customizable. You can hold your finger on it and swipe through a bunch of pre-installed watch faces. And you can actually download a bunch of other watch faces from the Zepp app on your phone. Now within the App Store, there's not only watch faces, but there's also dedicated apps to do various things. For example, there's a GoPro control app, there's a camera control app for your phone. There's a lot of interesting things in there, which is kind of cool. From the home screen here, I can swipe down from the top to get into my quick menu to change various settings. Scrolling up from the bottom will bring up all of my phone's notifications if I get a text message or an Instagram notification or something like that. And then swiping to the left or right, we'll start cycling through all of the widgets of the watch. So first up here, you can see I have the biocharge widget. We're gonna talk more on this in a minute. It's super interesting, stay tuned for that. Swiping over again, we have my daily activity widget here, which just has a truncated view of my step count, my stand time, and active minutes. Swiping over one more time, we get a really nice weather widget with a little animation of clouds moving in the background to represent the current weather. Swiping over again, we have the heart rate widget here. Swiping over again, we have a quick activity widget where I can dive quickly into a run if I want to do that. Swiping over one more time brings me into this list view of multiple widgets for various information, my weather, some music if I want to play that back, my biocharge, alarms, etc. So from the watch face, if I tap this top right button here, that'll bring me into my menu. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in here for working out, checking my workout status, viewing my map, checking the weather, my heart rate, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Now, most of this stuff is the same as previous Amazfit models, but there have been a couple of tweaks. First of all, there is a new golf app, and this is super interesting. You can download maps from local golf courses, and if you are a golfer, this will allow you to see a full map view of your golf course that you're playing on. So as you can see here, I can see the yards of the golf course, the par for the first hole. I can see a map view of the actual course. And if I click into this, I can actually zoom in and out of the map view of the golf course, and it's actually pretty responsive and very detailed. It even shows things like trees, the path for the golf cart, the greenway, sand traps, water, all the things are on this map as well. You can also keep score of your game, see how far the hole is from your position. A whole bunch of stuff here. I'm not a big golfer, but it is super interesting if you are. Scrolling past golf, again, we see a lot of similar features from other Amazfit watches, like my sleep metrics, my stress management, the phone for making and taking phone calls. Keep in mind, this is not a cellular device, so you'll need your phone nearby paired to the watch to make that work. And then we have music. There is 32 gigabytes of internal storage for music and maps if you are downloading golf course or navigation maps. And this watch does support MP3 files. You can download MP3 files using the app on your phone, play them back on the watch itself using the internal speaker or paired to earbuds that are paired to the watch. Now keep in mind, it doesn't have third-party services like Spotify or Amazon Music or anything like that. And then scrolling down to the bottom here, we've got all of the basics, the thermometer, the barometer, the compass, women's health metrics, and there is a new feature down here past HRV called Jet Lag Manager. Now within Jet Lag Manager, you can actually add an upcoming trip within the Zepp app on your phone, and that'll allow you to manage your jet lag when you're out on your trip. I haven't tried it yet, but it does sound similar to another brand out there that has a similar feature. And all the way at the bottom here, we have Zepp Flow, which is their AI voice assistant powered by ChatGPT. And Zepp Flow is actually really interesting because it can do a lot. So you can access Zepp Flow in two ways. You can simply select it from the app menu here, or you can simply hold the top right button here and it'll pop up at the bottom of the screen like that blue circle. Change by volume to 100%.
I set the volume to 100%. 100%.
Change my brightness to 100%.
The screen brightness has been set to 100%.
Who directed the movie Jurassic Park?
Steven Spielberg directed the movie Jurassic Park.
Start a running activity.
Would you like to start a track run or a trail running workout?
So as you can see, Zepp Flow is really powerful. You can change various settings in the watch, you can launch an activity, you can launch the flashlight, you can ask it general questions. It does a lot, and I'm kind of just scratching the surface on this, but it's really cool and probably one of the better voice assistants I've tried on a lot of these watches. Now in terms of speaker and microphone quality from the Amazfit Balance 2, that's what you're listening to right now. I'm recording my voice into the voice memo app on the Balance 2 and playing it back through the speaker and recording it with a super high quality microphone just so you get an idea of what it sounds like. The volume from the Balance 2 is actually surprisingly good. You can hear it from a good distance away. But I'm curious, what do you think of the quality of this microphone and speaker? Let me know in the comments down below. Now that we've gone through the user interface on the watch itself, let's take a look at some of the data that this watch collects in the Zepp app on my phone. So as you can see here, this is the companion app to the Balance 2 and all of their other products. And right up at the top left here, you can see these two little icons. Those are indicating that I currently have two devices paired to the same app. I have the Amazfit Balance 2 here and the new Amazfit Helio strap paired to the app and combining all of the data from both devices in one place. Now this is the overview page, and up at the top here, you get some pertinent details from my sleep, my biocharge, more on that in a minute, and my exertion score. So if I tap on sleep, this will bring me into my sleep details from the previous night. This is my sleep score at 90. It tells me it's optimal. And down below that, I get a little AI generated blurb about my previous night of sleep. If I scroll down, I get all the details about my sleep duration with a graph, my sleep regularity, my deep sleep time, my REM sleep, my awake time, and a lot more. Jumping back to the home screen here, we can dive into biocharge. This is probably the coolest new feature coming to Amazfit devices. Biocharge is essentially a metric trying to determine how much energy you have left throughout the day based on a 0 to 100 scale. The idea here is that when you wake up in the morning, you should be close to 100 on your biocharge, and by the end of the day, that number will go down throughout the day and deplete as time goes on, depending on how much activity you do. And if you're familiar with something like Garmin watches here, this is super similar to something like body battery. The interesting thing about biocharge is that this metric sort of replaces the older readiness metric from other Amazfit products. And that readiness score was something I always had an issue with. It wasn't dynamic, it didn't change throughout the day, and it was always very generous. I could be feeling really sick or run down or have a really bad night of sleep, and I'd still get a very high readiness score. And that's where things have changed a lot with biocharge. So here I just scrolled back in time a bit to a few days ago where I woke up with a biocharge of 75, and then I ended the day with 13. And if I go down to that graph, you can see all the factors again that rolled up into that. My sleep charged me up, and then you can see I went for a run this day that depleted the biocharge a lot quicker than it would have been if I didn't go for that run. And then scrolling down to the bottom in biocharge, we have heart rate variability over the past 7 days and my resting heart rate over the past 7 days as well. Now, when it comes to how accurate biocharge is, I've been pretty surprised by it. On most days, I think biocharge does represent how I feel a lot more accurately than the previous readiness score from previous generations. And surprisingly, on most days, it's pretty similar to Garmin's body battery throughout the day. Biocharge is also super sensitive to lifestyle habits, like if you have a couple of glasses of wine or a beer the night before, you'll see that your biocharge is affected the next day. Jumping back to the home screen here, let's dive into the exertion tab now. So this is also a new feature coming to Amazfit devices. And here you can see I have an exertion target of 15, and I'm currently at 3. That only gets me to 20% of my exertion score. So the exertion target is a suggestion on how active you should be on a given day based on their AI-generated suggested workouts. Down below my exertion score, I have a little AI-generated blurb to let me know that I'm in a good state, I'm fairly recovered and ready to take on more training. And then down below that, I have all of the factors that rolled up into this exertion score. Scrolling down further, we have my fatigue level from previous days of working out. You can see that on Thursday, I did a pretty hard run and it went up to 325. And then we have my fitness level below that. Jumping over to the overview page, I can scroll down and we get even more information. We get all of my core metrics, my resting heart rate, my HRV, sleep duration, and a lot more information there. My skin temperature from the previous night. We got heart health here, my step count for the day, calories burned, stress tracking, the pi score, my weight, and if I scroll all the way to the bottom here, kind of interesting, they sort of buried the older readiness score at the bottom here. However, in my case, my readiness score is not updating anymore, so I don't know if that's something they're just eventually going to get rid of. Now, if I jump over to the workout tab here, you can see all of my previous activities. We've got all the demo activities I just did here, some golf sessions, and then manually started activities like this 10-mile run here. And when you do record a run on the Amazfit Balance 2, you will get a whole bunch of data about that particular activity. Here I've got my workout time, my average pace, my heart rate, my training load, my cadence, etc. Then I get a lot of graphs for various information, my pace, my heart rate zones, my real-time performance, letting me know how that run went on that day, my running power, and this is running power from the wrist with no extra sensors required. We've got altitude data from the built-in barometer, my gradient distribution from uphill, flat, and downhill, my cadence on a graph, my stride length on a graph, vertical oscillation and ground contact time, along with training effect. So as you can see, this watch does collect a lot of data, including some advanced running metrics. From the workout tab here, I can also scroll down and dive into my estimated VO2 max. And as you can see here, it's got my estimated VO2 max at 49 right now, which unfortunately is very low for me. I've been lab tested. I know I'm around 56, 57. So I don't know why, but in my history with Amazfit devices, this has always been an issue, and it seems to still be on the Balance 2 here. Down below that, we do get my training load, and you can see the trending training load over the past 7 days, where I stand on the training load graph. And of course, there is a recovery advisor as well telling me I'm ready to take on another day of training. Jumping over to the next tab in the app, we have Amazfit's Oura, and this is sort of their AI sleep health thing that I haven't dived too deep in, but it is kind of interesting. And then finally, we have the device page here where you can update your watch face and download apps and all kinds of stuff. Jumping back to the watch here, if I press this lower right button, that dives me into the activity menu where I can start a run or a bike ride or whatever. There are a lot of activity profiles on this watch, from everything from the basics, running, cycling, hiking, etc., to more advanced stuff like triathlon or multi-sport mode. And you also have some really niche things like chess and checkers, and there's a lot on here. There are over 170 activity profiles to choose from on the Balance 2 here, even things like outdoor free diving. And interestingly enough, if I do start a diving activity like this outdoor free diving activity, you can see there, I actually get a depth reading there as well. The Amazfit Balance 2 also does support external sensors. You can pair Bluetooth power meters, cadence sensors, speed sensors, and heart rate straps to this watch as well. Next up, let's talk navigation and mapping on the new Amazfit Balance 2. As you can see here, this watch supports offline navigation and mapping. So you can see here, I've downloaded a map to the internal storage of the watch, and now I can use it without my phone nearby with no internet connection at all. To do this, you will need to pre-download a region of the map within the Zepp app on your phone. It's very easy to do. The maps are not very big, and you can select a pretty big region. Now, the maps on Amazfit have gotten a lot better over the past couple of generations. So as you can see here, these maps feature detail like map labels. You can see the name of the road there. They even have contour lines and elevation marks on the contour lines, as you can see right there. Really, the only downside to the mapping and navigation on this watch is that they're not routable, so you can't just pick a point in space and generate a route directly on the watch. You will need to pre-design a course on your phone and download it to the watch to do that. Another limitation with the Amazfit mapping and navigation is that they don't have a course or map builder in the Zepp app on your phone. You will need to use a third-party service like Strava or AllTrails or something like that to download a GPX file to import into the watch. Another interesting thing about the maps on the Amazfit Balance 2 is that they're very responsive. As you can see here, I can scroll around and there's almost no lag as I scroll around the map page. It's very snappy, there's almost no delay, and it kind of feels like you're using Google Maps on your phone. You can also zoom in and out by using the digital crown on the side of the watch here. Okay, next up, let's talk about battery life on the Amazfit Balance 2, because it's quite good. So in typical use, using it as a smartwatch and default settings with automatic brightness, you'll get about 21 days of use on the Balance 2. And that's a pretty big increase over the previous model on the Balance 1, which only had about 14 days of use. Now, if you dive into a GPS activity and you go for a run, you can run for about 33 hours. That is pretty significant because this is a multi-band enabled device. If you need more than 33 hours, it can drop into low energy mode and get up to 67 hours in a GPS activity. And now that we've talked about the battery life on the Amazfit Balance 2, that's a good segue into GPS modes and accuracy. Because like I said, this is a multi-band enabled device. That's sort of like the gold standard when it comes to positioning on smartwatches these days. So there are 4 settings to choose from on the Amazfit Balance 2 when it comes to accuracy in a GPS activity. That's accurate mode, automatic mode, which will automatically select which satellite systems to use, power saving mode, and custom mode, which sort of lets you custom tailor which satellites and dual band versus single band, and you can kind of get granular in the settings. However, in my testing, I've pretty much only left it in accurate mode because the battery life is still pretty good. And generally speaking, when it comes to accuracy, the Amazfit Balance 2 has been doing a pretty decent job. I've taken this watch out on a handful of runs with some other test devices, including the Garmin Forerunner 970 set in its most accurate mode, and side by side, they look pretty similar. In some areas, the Balance 2 did drift a little bit, but nothing major. And when I did some out and back activities where I ran out a few miles and then retraced my steps back, the lines all sort of stacked up on top of each other, which is a good sign of good accuracy. Again, some drift here or there, but nothing major worth really complaining about, especially if I weren't comparing it side by side with other watches. And at the end of each run I did with the Balance 2 compared to my other test devices, it lined up pretty favorably compared to the other devices, which again is a good sign when it comes to accuracy. And when it comes to heart rate sensor accuracy from the built-in optical heart rate sensor on the back of the watch, again, it's a similar story here. I've actually been pretty impressed with how much better these Amazfit watches have gotten over the past couple of years when it comes to their heart rate sensors, because they're at a place now where most of the new ones I've tested have done pretty decent. So as you can see here, I have a chart comparing the Garmin HRM 600, which is an ECG sensor and super accurate, to the Balance 2. And as you can see, it falls right in line with the Balance 2, and they're looking pretty similar. The trend lines are very close. And throughout all of the runs I've done with the Amazfit Balance 2, I haven't seen any huge outliers or any major issues. Keep in mind, I've only done running with this watch, and that's what I'm basing my opinion on. If you are strength training or cycling or like mountain biking down a side of a mountain, you may get different results. Just keep that in mind, but so far, it looks pretty good in terms of heart rate sensor accuracy. Okay, so where does that leave us on the Amazfit Balance 2? I'm pretty impressed with this one. At $249, you're getting a really premium feeling watch with a sapphire display. It's got all of the modern day bells and whistles you can ask for, including a bright AMOLED display, maps, speaker and microphone, health and wellness tools that have gotten much better with things like biocharge and the updated algorithms. At this point, I feel like the only features that still need work in the Amazfit ecosystem are things like the sleep score, which is still a little bit generous. Most nights it'll give me a really high sleep score, even though my biocharge might be slightly lower. So hopefully they can work on that. And then on top of that, things like training tools with the estimated VO2 max being much lower than it really is. I also think their training load algorithm could use some work, but it's still pretty useful in its current state. On top of that, I'd also like to see Amazfit eventually offer some sort of music streaming service for music instead of just supporting MP3s, because that's kind of a hassle for a lot of users out there. And finally, I'd love to see Amazfit implement some sort of course creation tool within the app on your phone, because currently you need to download a GPX file from Strava or AllTrails or something to make navigation work, where all of their competitors from Coros to Garmin, Suunto, they all have a built-in course creation tool in the app on the phone that is very useful. Hopefully they can do that in the future. But for the price at $250 US, you're getting a lot for your money here. And if you're in the market for a high-end sport watch, but you got sticker shock when you started shopping and you saw the price of something like a Forerunner 970 or a Fenix 8, the Balance 2 is definitely worth taking a look at. The question is this a Garmin Fenix 8 or Forerunner 970 killer? At this point, not quite. Amazfit still has to work on a few core things, like making their general health and wellness metrics a little bit more reliable when it comes to like sleep and recovery, implementing more smartwatch features like NFC payments or streaming services, and just polishing their app ecosystem, offering more third-party apps for more useful things. And when it comes to the hardware, while it is really nice, it would be cool to have those other useful features, like a built-in flashlight or having ECG built in, because this watch doesn't have that either. But again, when you consider the price, price, those might be sacrifices you're willing to make. But of course, that's just my opinion, and you're welcome to have your own opinion. And that's why we're going to hear from you in the comments down below. What do you think of the new Amazfit Balance 2 so far? Is this something you're interested in? Are you going to run out and buy one? Are you ordering one right now? Let me know in the comments down below what you think of it, if you're going to get it, or if you're going to stick with something like a Garmin. And as always, after you're done commenting, make sure to drop down and give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more videos coming in the very near future. And after you do that, check out the links in the description down below, where you can head down and pick up your very own Amazfit Balance 2 or any other watch I talked about in this video. And finally, when you're done shopping, also check out all of my other social media profiles, my Instagram, my Threads, my Strava, and my merch store where you can pick up a sweet t-shirt like this. Chase the summit. All right, friends, that's it for this one. I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you next time. Bye. I'ma show 'em all how to party if they let me. Keep the countdown and release the